Thank you. I'm Reverend Sarah Stewart. I serve Star King Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Plymouth, where I also live. Star King Unitarian Universalist Fellowship is a welcoming congregation, which means that we're open to gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people being part of our community. There are definitely faith communities of all kinds all over the state that support same-sex marriage and equal rights for all our people. I was very privileged to be represented in the House, in the legislature, by Representative Carol Estes, and I was also privileged to be her minister until she passed away this past October. And she spoke before the New Hampshire House of Representatives very movingly. She was an African-American woman, and her husband was a white man. When they first fell in love in Florida, it was illegal for them to marry. They had to wait until the law changed before they could get married. And in her speech before the House of Representatives, she said there is no need to go back to those times regarding same-sex couples. There is no need to deny the right of marriage to any group of people. In our country, some states used to deny it to interracial couples. There's no need for us now to deny it to same-sex couples. I think there's no need for us as a state to go backwards with regard to the rights of our citizens. I've been very honored to marry two men in my congregation who have been a committed couple for 11 years. They were married last year. Another couple in my congregation, two women who have been together for a number of years, just got married. And I just had coffee with two new members of my congregation, two young women who have been married for about a year and are hoping to bring a child into their family. I think that family is only strengthened. That child will only be better off because her mothers are married to each other. I urge the committee not to retain this bill, but please rule it inexpedient to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Pro Tem, and members of the committee. And my name is Reverend Jed Reardon, and it's my privilege to stand here again before you as pastor of South Congregational Church, just a few blocks south of here. Many of my members are here, many of them happily married and in committed relationships, both heterosexual and homosexual, many of whom are here today. I also stand here as former chaplain of this august body, and I'm privileged to be back with you. But I'm here today to represent the testimony of Gary Schulte, who is conference minister of the United Church of Christ, and I would like to read to you his letter and then submit copies to the committee. Dear members of the New Hampshire House of Representatives Judiciary Committee, my name is Gary Schulte. I'm an ordained minister of the United Church of Christ who serves as conference minister of the New Hampshire Conference of the United Church of Christ. On July 4th of 2005, delegates to our 25th General Synod of the United Church of Christ meeting in Atlanta, Georgia, voted as a body to adopt the resolution Equal Marriage Rights for All. Earlier in 2005, delegates meeting at the 204th annual meeting of the Gathered New Hampshire Conference of the United Church of Christ voted to adopt a resolution that designates ours as an open and affirming conference, one which supports the inclusion of all persons in the life and the ministry of the Church. It is from these historic commitments that I offer my testimony. On April 15th, I stood here before the New Hampshire Senate Judiciary Committee to advocate for the passage of HB 436 as a matter of justice and equality for all persons. I believe that God calls us to love and respect all persons and to grant to them all the rights due to them in this society. Marriage equality guarantees that same-gender couples in committed, loving relationships will be treated with dignity and afforded the same protections and benefits under the law. Additionally, great care was taken to shape New Hampshire's law so that it would not impinge on the rights and responsibilities of religious communities. Those who, for reasons of faith and conscience, do not support marriages of same-gender couples are not legally constrained to perform such marriages. And when the New Hampshire legislature and the governor acted to make marriage equality the law of our state, on June 3rd, 2009, I rejoiced. A new day had come, This was and still is the right thing to do. Now, less than 2 years later, I offer this testimony, calling you to be courageous and to ensure the rights of all of our citizens, regardless of their sexual orientation. I urge you to preserve the freedom of all loving, committed couples in our state. Repealing marriage equality would be a great injustice for those who have already been married under the law. Please do what is right by our sons and daughters, our nieces and nephews, our neighbors, and those who work and worship beside us, and oppose any legislation that seeks to repeal the law enacted in 2009. This is not a partisan issue. It is an opportunity to protect the rights of married couples.
Well, God's going to be mad at me, but the Reverend has gone over his time. Would you like to make any closing comments?
And this last sentence here. Thank you for your service. I will keep you all in my prayers as you do this important work to ensure that all people are treated with justice and equality. Sincerely, the Reverend Gary Shoulder. Thank you.
Clinton Plumley supports 437 and waiting in the back, Representative David Robbins, Jay Ledoux, Reverend Frank Urban, Robert Olean, Carol Cusick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Committee, and the people that are here today. Over my lifetime, I have believed that marriage is between a man and a woman. Now recently, the country is turning towards a different way of thinking. Well, I am still of the old school that marriage is between a man and a woman, and I will always feel that way. I feel that if civil unions have taken place in the past few years, they should be left as grandfathered and their benefits left alone. So I'm for you guys, okay? But for the future, it needs to be classified just as civil unions and just as civil unions, and not redefine marriage. The sanctity of marriage needs to be restored. Bill 437 in Section 3 states, the vast majority of children are conceived by acts of passion between men and women, sometimes unintentionally. Because of this biological reality, New Hampshire has a unique, distinct, and compelling interest in promoting stable and committed marital unions between opposite-sex couples so as to increase the likelihood that children will be born to and raised by both of their natural parents. No other domestic relationship presents the same level of state interest. It is for this reason that I am supporting both 437 and 443 that requires marriage to be defined as the domestic union between a man and a woman. Thank you.
Representative David Robbins. He opposes 443 and 437.
Committee members, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me to come and speak at this small, intimate gathering. And, Mr. Chairman,